Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Unjust. No, sir. Gregory is still running around. And I'm sure y'all have been thinking, like, each week you see the trailer and you're wondering, like, when will there be women on? Today, I actually got to hang out with some of my sisters from Women on the Rise. And so, pretty soon, we'll have several of them coming to share their stories. Um, but tonight we're going to talk about these unjust sentences. So, what that looks like, there is a young man who is sitting in a maximum security prison. Um, Crime was committed when he was 16. However, they didn't send him to trial until he was 18. With him going to trial at 18, they actually sentenced him as an adult. Right. So, this young man was going to be with us by phone tonight, not actually a video chat, but we were going to be able to talk to him. But what's there is there are times in which he's present, he's alert, he's focused, he's able to have conversations. And then there's other times where he's, in a state of trauma, where he's unable to really function, and where a basic conversation looks like gibber jabber. And so,
Can you talk like right now?
no.
Is this real? I know, but like,
So, right now, I'm dealing with both of my children. Usually, we have Gregory running around.
no. Is this real?
That's real.
Oh.
Bryce is announcing that he just got a scholarship to a college, and he's asking, "Is that real?" And
What
so
did I do?
so I'm saying this because I have two boys that I'm raising, and I am committed to my children not being stereotypes. And in saying that, we have this young man named Ricky Barron. So, Mr. Barron, I'm going to read an article to you. Valdosta, Georgia. Acquitted murder suspect sentenced for robbery by Terry Richards, October 26, 2016. Valdosta, Georgia. A Valdosta teen found not guilty of murder was sentenced Tuesday on armed robbery and firearms charges, according to the district attorney's office. Ricky Barron III, 18, was cleared of murder September 28th in Lowndes County Superior Court. He was tried for the October 27th, 2014 death of Timothy Linder, who was shot and killed in the 1700 block of Marion Street. While Barron was acquitted of felony murder and one count of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, a Lowndes County jury convicted him of armed robbery as well as a second charge of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Southern Circuit Judge Richard Cowart sentenced Barron to 15 years in prison for the armed robbery charge and 5 years probation for the firearms charge to be served consecutively, said Assistant Southern District Attorney Brad Shealy. The prosecution alleged Barron, 16 at the time, was the trigger man in the robbery turned deadly after he and two others, Angel Clark and Andrea Mitchell, went from the Del Mar Motel to Linder's home intending to steal marijuana from him. During the trial, defense attorney Billy Folsom argued the gun used in the crime, which belonged to Angel Clark, could not be linked definitively to Barron at the moment of the shooting. Clark, 18, was indicted on charges of armed robbery and tampering with evidence in connection with the shooting. Mitchell was originally indicted for the same charges as Barron: felony murder, armed robbery, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, according to court documents. Both women were allowed to plead guilty to the lesser charge of armed robbery in exchange for their testimony, Folsom said. Terry Richards, a senior reporter at the Valdosta Daily Times. Okay, so first off, I'd like to say my condolences to Timothy Linder's family. No. And what I mean by that is when I have this show, by no means when I when I argue, when I fight, when I advocate for those who are sitting in jail and prison, by no reason, by no means, by no way do I ever want there to be the thought that the victims' lives don't matter. So, my condolences to Mr. Linder and his family. So, here's the problem with this case. All right, I actually spoke to Zai. I'll just call him Zai. Spoke with Zai, Mr. Barron, and he's now 23 years old, sitting incarcerated in a maximum security prison. The problem is his co-defendant actually, quote unquote, found the gun in their house that was used in this crime. Mr. Barron Zai was never arraigned. They came, they arrested him, they took him to trial. There was no arraignment, there were no motion of this. They charged him. There was no Mirandizing, they just arrested him and took it, and took it to trial. Now, he was 16 at the time. One of the co-defendants, their parents, 3 days after he was sitting incarcerated, the parents said, by the way, we found the gun that was used to kill this young man, and it belongs to Mr. Barron, the co-defendant. So right now you have a young man who's 23 years old, and he's a fairly frail young man in a maximum security prison for murder, for firearms, and for armed robbery. Now he beat the murder case. Hold on. He beat the murder charge, but what's there is he actually did not beat the firearms charge or the armed robbery charge. Although the firearm wasn't his firearm. So this raises several questions. Like, one, when being convicted, is it just or is it unjust for us to have these people who go to jail at 15, at 14, at 16, at 13, go to jail as minors? And because of the judicial system where they hold you until you go to trial, not so much of holding you for arraignment, but just hold you in a cell until they get to you. So in this case, he was held until he was 18. When he went to trial at 18, that classifies him as an adult. By him being classified as an adult, he was charged as an adult. Although, like I said before, the actual co-defendant found the gun at her house. Her parents found it and said it was his gun 3 days after he was incarcerated. There were no, they did ballistics, they did fingerprinting, not fingerprinting, they fingerprinted, what's it called? I forgot the language, but they actually tried to make sure there was no gunpowder residue on his hands. They didn't find anything. They charged him with evidence tampering because he didn't have possession of the weapon. The possession of the weapon was actually at one of the co-defendants' house. So because the weapon was, theoretically speaking, moved and hidden at a co-defendant's house, that's where the evidence tampering comes from. And this young man has 15 years in prison. Now, 15 years for some of those charges may not seem like forever, because there was a murder charge and nobody went to prison for this murder charge. But what's there is imagining how this young man is going to be when he's released. Do our prisons and jails actually recidivize people? Do they make them better individuals, better human beings? Or do they just make you more angry, more enraged? Like, it's my experience that there is no healing inside of the corrections industry. There is no healing. There's no real corrections inside of the corrections industry. There's just punishment. And in this case, I feel as if this young man was just punished unjustly. One, because I don't even think he did it, honestly, and he could have done it. Who am I to say? But what's there for me is, how is it that the weapon was registered in Angel's name? The co-defendant parents found the weapon at their house, turned the weapon in. The co-defendant actually did not get prison time because they pled out to be able to snitch on Mr. Barron, for better choice of words. And he's sitting in a maximum security prison. So how is it that we're losing our kids to this system? How is it that nobody has spoken up for this young man? How is it that this young man is living with all types of mental, emotional, spiritual trauma right now? Like, there are days in which he can have a full conversation, and there's days in which you don't even understand what the heck he's talking about. So it's like, why isn't he being provided with some type of mental, emotional, and trauma-informed care while he's sitting incarcerated? I know for a fact that at this prison, they have forensic teams and forensic departments, and they have a full mental health team. So why isn't he being provided with mental health services? I'm going to advocate for this all day, because there's no reason for this young man to have gone in really at 16. Yeah, my phone is just going off tonight. And it ain't went off all day. But really at 16, and now he's 23 years old, and he's sitting incarcerated for a charge of murder. Well, like I say, he didn't go to prison for the murder charge. How is it that we allow these co-defendants to actually turn in evidence? How is it that in Georgia, if you cooperate, then you are actually working with the DA? And if you don't know, just because you don't know, then that means that you're not cooperating. So you're now hostile. You're now someone who is refuting what the district attorney says. You're now somebody that's a person of interest because you don't agree with what's going on. So in this case, how can we help this young man? I haven't spoken to any of his family. He's really not that coherent. He was coherent the first day. He's really, really, really intelligent, which was extremely striking. And today, he didn't know. I mean, I couldn't even talk to him. He was on Jupiter somewhere. And I've been there before. So I don't know what his diagnosis is. I don't know if he's even been diagnosed. I don't know if the TVs are talking to him or what it looks like in his world right now. But what's there is somebody needs to advocate for these kids to not be going to prison. And even if they do go to prison, maximum security, when he should have been tried at 16, not 18, maybe there's something, and I don't know, I can look into it, but excuse me, being able to look at the law and the way that the legislation and the public policy has been written around these kids being tried at or going to jail at 15, 16, but not actually being tried until they're 18 and 19, which now constitutes them as an adult. So instead of going to juvenile, instead of them going to juvenile, their records being sealed, expunged, different things depending on the state, they're now being tried as adults. and they're now going to maximum security prisons, and they're now coming out ready to become repeat offenders. If you go to prison at 16, 17, 18, and you're now 25, 30, you've missed the prime of your life. You've missed a lot of time to actually cultivate yourself and to explore the world. So when we have these people become repeat offenders because they've missed out on the prime of their lives, we blame them. Or should we be blaming the system? Just a question. Today feels kind of boring. I don't have anyone on the show with me. There's no real dialogue. Julius is wherever Julius is. Bobby is wherever Bobby is. Or Robert. My apologies.
Robert's where's Robert's at?
Gregory, stop. And what's there is, I don't know if there's even a solution. Like in my world, we would just close all of these daggone prisons and jails and deal with a holistic community approach. In a lot of people's world, a holistic community approach could actually work. In a lot of African cultures, it works. And so when we're dealing with these kids being in these adult driven, ridden prisons, kids, this little boy could be one of my kids.
Who?
Kids.
Who?
Stop. And I don't understand. There's no part of me that can understand why he didn't get sentenced until he was 18. Is it because Georgia doesn't have a law that compensates people if they're innocent? Is it because Georgia has people who sit in jail for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years before they go to trial because they're hoping that a lot of times these district attorneys are hoping that if they arrest you for one charge and you don't plead out, you must be guilty. So if they keep holding you long enough, at some point you'll plead to some kind of charge, or they'll find you guilty of something. Pick it up. Or they'll find you guilty of something. So in saying that, how can we stop the institutionalization, the railroading of our young Black boys? I'm feeling real bored. Hold on, we're going to call somebody. Hold on. Y'all bear with me. I'm going to phone a friend. I'm hoping that they answer.
Hello?
Demita Bishop,
Yes?
this is Chantaye. How are you?
Hey, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hello? Well, never mind. I can't even click it over. Wait.
Okay. I'm calling a friend, Demita Bishop.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm on my show Unjust, and I decided to phone a friend. And so you're my friend that I decided to phone because my young guy that was on this show he was 16 years. Hold on. No, you can't order any food. The young man was 16 years old when they charged him with armed robbery, murder, and the possession of a firearm. Problem is, the co-defendant actually is the one who found the firearm at their house 3 days after he was arrested. So, Gregory, stop that. Pick this up. So, stop that. Pick this up. So, what I'm calling you for is to have a quick conversation. Two things. I want to talk about Freedom Fest, and the other thing before we get into Freedom Fest, what are your thoughts on people going to jail at 16 but not going to trial until they're 18 and 19 and then being charged as adults? Gregory, stop. Being charged as adults versus being charged as juveniles. What are your thoughts?
Am I on the air?
Well, yes and no.
Okay, good.
You're-
Okay, I was gonna say good because
Mom,
they
put
need
the
to
plates in there.
Yes, I mean you're on speaker. Do you want to call in? You want to be on camera?
No, I look ugly today.
You're never ugly. My friends ain't never ugly, even when we wake up with our wigs and our weaves on the side of the bed.
Because I had got a call about that last week. So this is what they need to do. Number one, they need to first go back. Like how long ago was this?
So the little boy, I hate to call him a little boy, but 3 years old now. The case, his name is Anthony Barron. The case is his fingers weren't like, they don't have his fingerprints. Like, he wasn't the owner of the gun. The owner of the gun, or one of the co-defendants' parents, found the gun 3 days after they arrested him. They didn't arraign him. And now he's shell-shocked. He's sitting in prison with all of these mental health issues and not being taken care of for his mental health.
So let me ask you a question. Was he a part of the robbery but just didn't touch the gun?
So he was definitely a part of the robbery.
Okay, so we're gonna start with that.
But this is the part. But this, hold on, real quick, Demetra. This is the part though. He was a part of the robbery. He went to jail for robbery, and he went to jail for possession of a gun. The murder charge was thrown out. The two co-defendants pled out because they basically snitched on him. So they didn't serve any real time. He's the only one that got time. But the actual firearm that was used to murder the person wasn't registered in his name. It wasn't in his possession. It didn't have his fingerprints. There were no ballistics, like none of that. And it was found after he was incarcerated by one of the co-defendant's parents at their house. Not at his house, at the co-defendant's house.
So what did he have?
Possession of a firearm and armed robbery. And he got 15 years in a maximum security prison at 18. But the question is, when he went to prison, or when he went to jail, he was 16. And he didn't go to trial until he was 18. So automatically they're trying him as an adult. But shouldn't he, or what do you think is there around being charged as a juvenile offender, because he was the crime was committed when he was a juvenile, not when he was an adult?
Well, you can't take it back and sentence him as a juvenile. And a lot of times, if depending on the age of the other boys, if they commit armed robbery with
Wait. The other people were girls. He was the only male. The gun was owned by one of the females.
How old were the girls though?
I don't know. I don't think that they were.
That's why I said men, but I mean it doesn't matter. Like if they were grown and he committed the crime with them, then that's a lot to do with why they charged him as an adult.
Got it.
But the youth offender laws were not out when he was 16. They just passed those about 4 years ago or something. But so this is the thing. It all depends. This can actually come in his favor if he can find documentation of a lot of this stuff. Like if he can prove that he was held that long and why, and there's verbiage on why they held him that long, he can get in and probably get that sentence lightened up. 15 years for armed robbery is actually good because, it usually carries a life sentence.
Yes.
So I know 15 years doesn't sound good, but 15 years on armed robbery is actually pretty decent.
I agree. I think that the charges for what he's being charged for I don't think it's that harsh. My only thing about it is I don't believe that he should be in a, well, not even that. I don't believe that he should be in a maximum security prison at 18 when he was, he committed the crime at 16. So theoretically speaking, did you just put paint on the sofa? Yes, you did. Get that paint off my sofa, Gregory. All of that paint.
Security be done depending on the nature of the crime.
The bottles of paint. Get them off the sofa.
Like, I need to check into that because I was questioning why do some
Bryce,
of them.
get that paint off the sofa, please.
I was questioning.
I'm listening, Demita.
I was questioning why a lot of first-time offenders go into maximum security. And I was just, and this is a question because I don't know the answer. I was thinking that maybe it's because it's armed robbery.
Well, I don't know, because I have a friend who actually worked for a computer place. They were working with a well-known athlete, a well-known NBA player, and the NBA player bought, like, he was doing some charity event and he bought like 20 laptops or something. And he gave them his employee discount and they charged him with theft because he used his employee discount for like 20 laptops. And so he got 2 years, but they put him in a maximum security prison. And this is someone with a college degree, fraternity, family are various, he comes from a very, very, very great family, like great family background, all of that. And they put him in a maximum security prison for 2 years.
Wow. I guess black means you go into maximum security, maybe. I don't know. we're a threat. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and I was saying that black people, we don't get no sympathy or pity, especially black men.
Yeah. Like
you can have and Lord knows I don't like to pull the race card, but let's be honest, a white person can be growing up in conditions like abuse, child abuse, mama's on drugs, he was malnourished. They'll take all that in consideration of why he behaves and kind of go a little light on him and get him some help. But us, we don't get the same thing. If you say, well, Deontay has schizophrenia, oh yeah, we need to lock him down in extra maximum security. He's dangerous.
I get it.
Like, so, are they low-key trying to say that we're just so mentally strong that we're a threat and danger to them, which makes us more supreme? I don't know.
I just think that it's a lack of cultural competency and cross-cultural dialogue. There's an organization that I've done a lot of work within, and I stopped participating with this organization because I felt like they were too out of touch with what it means to be black. And what that looks like is, if I say that I'm struggling because I'm a single mom, that doesn't mean that I'm on welfare. And I've been on welfare before for 6 months, not forever, but I have been on food stamps. I get Medicaid now. Medicaid is the only one that covers my mental health medicine. And I have an $11,801 bill for overpayment from Social Security. So I say all of that to say, when they hear struggling and you're black and you're a single parent, the first thing they think is, oh my God, there's drugs. Oh my God, they live in the projects. Oh my God. And it don't mean that. It means I'm like a lot of Americans where I got debt and I got bills to pay, but it's like in our culture, in our families, in our households, we don't get to talk like that. It's like, if you're black, like I had to tell, even when I had my radio show, The Money Mamas, I had to tell my co-host, I was like, this is a middle class conversation. And you keep wanting to refer to programs. Everybody didn't grow up inside of programs. Just because you're black, it doesn't mean programs. Because a lot of times I feel like these summer camps, like Bryce did not get free lunch, my 17-year-old. But some kind of way, he got a food stamp card that just came in the mail. And then my one of my therapists, Gregory, stop. I mean, he was excited. I was excited too for that $375. And then my therapist, one of her kids got a food stamp card too. And we were both like, why are these kids getting food stamp cards? But what's there for me is I was like, why are they sending them to our black teenage boys? Like, is this the new way of the first thing I went to was the school to prison pipeline. Like,
are you talking about like this year that happened?
Yeah, the pandemic cards. They came in his
My
name.
daughter got one, but they didn't give my 11-year-old got one when she was 9, and it wasn't for me. It was just to
For
feed
her.
And yeah.
But did you apply for it?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Every time I'm not gonna act uppity because every time I've ever tried to apply for food stamps, I've always made $2 too much or something. And then and then there were periods where I thought, oh, I missed a lot of work. Let me go apply now. And they would still say I made too much.
Girl, I know. I applied for food stamps and I've had food stamps and I don't have any problem with food stamps. Yeah. And what's there for me is there's no reason for these kids to have pandemic food stamp cards coming to them out of nowhere when their parents haven't applied. And I feel like it's
I didn't even expect that. I heard about it, but off top because I always get denied. I thought, well, they ain't gonna give me one. And then one came in the mail, and I was like, well, okay, well, and hers had like $100 on it.
Yeah, but I think about that stuff as like the new school to prison pipeline. And I don't know why I go there, but that's the first place that I went when I saw that card, like pandemic EBT. I ain't never known the government just to send out no free food stamps and stuff like that. You got to carry yourself to a food pantry or a food bank or something like that. But to just send out food stamps to our kids without any kind of application, without us applying, how can you be denied food stamps as a parent, but then your kids can qualify?
Yeah, I don't know what that's about because I think I do agree that it should have been some type of application or something going on with the parents. But these schools, oh my goodness, the schools, the government. I don't know. I grew up. I was a teenage mom at 17, and I can honestly say I did not use. I probably had in 28 years of being a mother, I probably used the government maybe 2 years total, not consecutively, but in that time. And half of it was when I got Chantaye, when I got custody of Chantaye. But that's how I just stood on my own feet because I didn't trust the government. And then my parents, that's how they raised us. Like, don't go in there and get stuck on their system because then they got you. Mm-hmm. And then you'll always be on welfare and then you'll never amount to nothing. And they the way they would present things to me scared me from doing certain things.
Yeah, I can hear that. And for me, the first time that I got welfare, I didn't even get food stamps. I got welfare, the welfare to work program. And I was sitting there like, what am I doing in here? My club was under investigation. My bank accounts were frozen. My ex-boyfriend was facing 50 felonies. And what was there is he had just sued the police and won 2 months before. And so my car had gotten repoed, and I'm sitting there with a $300 sweater and Chinese laundry shoes and snakeskin purses. And they're talking about I got to do GED classes. I'm like, I got a college degree, but I had to go through GED classes to even get assistance. But I needed assistance for daycare. It wasn't, I mean, I was grateful for that check because I'm always grateful for some money. But I needed I really needed, at the time, all seriousness, I needed that daycare assistance so that I could carry my butt to go get a job. Going to work has never been a problem for me. I've been working since I was like 14, 15 years old. But, that whole concept of, and I'll go get me some food stamps in a second. And my mom is so not that person. Like, my mom worked in the aviation. She had me when she was 19 years old. And by the time that I was 16, my mother made 6 figures in the 90s. And so... And that's with no college degree.
About my grandparents and they tried to get food stamps too. And it still was the same situation where they made too much money. He was a high-ranking soldier. So I don't know what made them think that they were going to get food stamps. They thought, oh, we took this child in, we'll get some food stamps. Nope. It was like, you make enough money to feed her.
Yep, that's what they said.
Yeah. But I think as far as the case goes, I think that because he's the male, they assume that he
pulled the trigger.
Manipulated the girls, right? So that's probably why everything fell on him. And and we all know the prosecution will tell the girls just dump it on him and we'll get you out of there. And their parents probably didn't care.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
That is what they did.
And 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty sure that he didn't leave a paper trail that can get him up out of this. Because we were talking about that today too, how they say lack of knowledge is no defense. So basically they expect us to know the same type of things that at least the first year law student would know.
Right.
And who knows that? Who knows that type of stuff? Only my idiot ass sit down and read law books. But I mean, the average person, if you're not thinking you're committing any crime, you're just living your life, enjoying your life, you're not thinking, hey, I better get to these law books because I might be wrongfully accused one day.
Right.
Or I might, if you're 16 and you are committing crimes, you're just trying to get away with it. You're not thinking, let me go get a law book to see what my limits are and how they're going to enhance me. And you're not thinking like that.
But you know what, Demita, like even with you, thank you for sharing how you were a teenage mom. I think I've shared this before on this show. I got pregnant when I was 15 years old and I almost committed suicide. I almost overdosed on some NyQuil. I took it wasn't in one setting. It was like 2 pills here, about an hour later, 3 pills because I ain't went to sleep, about 2-3 more hours, about 4-5 pills. Like I was just trying to go to sleep. And by the end of 24 hours, I had taken a whole lot of pills. And because I was pregnant, they were going to charge me with attempted murder. Yeah. And yeah, they were going to charge me. When the police and the paramedics came to the house to pump my stomach, because I was pregnant, I was going to be charged with attempted murder. And the only reason why I didn't, this goes back to being grateful that there was some level of privilege. And we weren't we weren't just rich, we were just middle class. We were standard middle class. And what's there is my mom was able to, with her being in the military, she took me to Fort Stewart, which was about an hour and a half away from Savannah. And I stayed at the military base for a month. They committed me, they charged me with depression, or they diagnosed me with depression. It was like a retreat where I made bags every day, baskets, and I did latch hooking and stuff like that. And I was able to wear my jewelry and my clothes and my shoes. Like, I was able to have visitors every 4 to 5 days. I think it was, I know at least once a week I had visitors. But my mom was able to call and come up every day. The nurses would take me to Pizza Hut on the military base. And, so it wasn't that bad. But I say all of that to say, what if that wasn't the case? What if I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism for saying this, but that's why I say this, like the fight for social justice is a class issue. It is.
Like, because, like I said, I was okay until I stepped out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
My parents were high-ranking military when I was a small child, it was a sergeant first class all the way up to a sergeant major. And very well known in Texas, very well known in Oklahoma, overseas. So as long as I was attached to them, I was good. There was nothing going to happen to me because we can call Sergeant Bishop. We'll just go get Sergeant Bishop. And, that was my get out of jail free card. I didn't do anything to go to jail, but you get what I'm saying. That was my privilege and who my parents were. Yeah. But when I stepped away from them and out on my own, that was when I saw racism for the first time. That's when I got treated like a lower class citizen. And, it was scary because now I'm seeing what, other people with the other side of the fence went through. Yeah. And I know when I started doing this and I started, asking, I'm not going to say their names on here, but they know who they are. Certain white people who were formerly incarcerated, I was noticing that they were only helping white cases. And one of them finally told me, he said, it's because when you're incarcerated, there's money in the white person saving the black person. He said, there's no funding coming for a white person to save a white person. He said, so we had to fend for ourselves. So as we got out, we reached back. Okay, I'm out now. I'm going to help you. And then we're going to help him. And then we're going to help him. He said, that's how we have to do it because, they'll do a few white people a year. But for the most part, all these innocent organizations are going in for the black people. Even though it's hard for us to get to them, that is who they're going after.
Wow.
And so it taught me a lesson on, how the prison system is and why because I even said yesterday, like, why are y'all fighting? It doesn't matter if you're a Peckerwood, if you're a Aryan Brotherhood, a Ku Klux Klan, Crip Blood, GD Vice Lord. You guys are fucking incarcerated. You're slaves. So what are you fighting about?
Right.
And then, and this is why, because even in there's politics.
There is.
So, like, this whole walk on criminal justice has been such an eye-opener and a learning lesson for me in so many ways.
But you know what, Demita, and I don't know if this is just my perspective. It's like society doesn't really care if you're privileged or not. Almost all of my middle class friends have been to jail or prison. And I ain't talking about for a day. Actually, I remember being in college thinking that I was poor because I had a Volkswagen Golf, and my mom and my mom's fiance drove like Eclipses and Audis, and my friends' parents drove Range Rovers and Jaguars, right? And so that was my equivalence. My friends had Saabs and BMWs while we were in college, and I had this $5,000 Suzuki car that looked like an egg. So I say all of that to say, what's there for me is society never cared if there was a privileged conversation or not, because my friends that drove Range Rovers, guess what? They've spent the weekend in jail for being pulled. Like, one of my friends went to jail because she got a flat tire on the side of the road in the Range Rover. And I forgot.
And I get what you're trying to say, because that is so true. The only thing is, if they have money, they can hire the right amount of attorney to make things go away. And a lot of times, even if we're
But no. Wait. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about just the money to hire the attorney to make it go away, because that exists. That exists. But I'm talking about being incarcerated for the humiliation part of it. Being incarcerated because you get a flat tire and come to find out you had a ticket that was expired, or I forgot what her charge was, but it was something ridiculous, and it was a Friday, so they kept her for the whole weekend. And this is someone who is very, her family was very affluent, and that was the situation. But I really don't have, I have friends who played in the professional sporting leagues who went to prison. I have friends who,
because at the end of the day, we still black.
We are still black, and that's what I'm saying.
What I'm looking at with the money is, if you got money, if you can find them, you can get the right amount of attorney.
No, because then they hit you with another charge. They hit you with a charge about that money. So see, that's the catch about that. Like, one of my,
that's if you commit. Come on.
No, it's not about you committing a crime.
It's attorneys, and they get out of it.
But it's not just committing a crime. Like, for instance, I know someone who went to prison for 2 years, I think, for possession of known stolen money. I ain't talking about bank robbery money. They said that he knew that money was stolen. He was a realtor. So how do you know that this money is stolen? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know if some money is stolen to go to jail, to go to prison for 2 years. You don't know. All you know is somebody comes to you with a certain credit score and they say, I want to buy a house, and they have some legitimate cash, and somewhere in there, because the money, something with the money, they send them to prison. And then, ouch, Gregory, that's okay. And then one of my friends, her ex-husband, was sitting in prison for facing 40 years, and they hadn't taken him to trial And the only saving grace that she had, this is the money conversation. Her son went to college to be a lawyer, and they couldn't find anyone to take his case. So the son had to go from just practicing regular case law on a state level to being sworn in on a federal level so that he could take his dad's case to save his dad from going to prison for 40 years for some charges that weren't his. That's what money can do for you, but it's like the money and the power is in education, because you can have a whole lot of money and spend a whole lot of time in prison. But when you start educating yourself and you start advocating for yourself and you start learning these laws, like that's what changes things.
Spending the last 3 years of my life trying to educate people on
the law.
I have been successful. Not I, but
you
just by knowing the rights and stopping 6 people from getting a conviction.
Well, Demita, what you've been so great at too is being articulate and being able to articulate conversations in words other than hi, hey, and understanding the difference that the word hi and hey and hello, the difference that those 3 things can make to a sentence. So it's like
I have to fall back a lot because I try to help people of all nationalities, all races, and a lot of times, I'll just show them a little bit, and they think, oh, I got this, and they think they can move without me, and next thing you know, they're fucking the whole case up. They're fucking it up. So I had to fall back because it's just like you think I show you a little bit. We're taking our time. We're combing through the evidence. We're combing through the indictment. And I just show you one little thing and you think, oh, I don't need you. I got this. And I'm going to start an organization. And next thing you know, you're calling me because you done fucked up. And it's like, you don't know nothing. No, you didn't even let me get to what I needed to get to because you thought you had it.
Well, let them have it, Demita.
Yeah, what did I just say? I said I had to fall back from a lot of people.
Yeah, because you are always in demand. Just remember that. You are always in demand. You are always valued. And you are a sought after person in this industry. Because people talk about you. Your name is being spoken in rooms that you are yet to step foot into. And for those who hate on you, let them hate on you because most of them have nothing really going on for the most part. That's what I've come to realize.
They'll call me too. Girl, funny thing, I just left the meeting right before you called me. Well, not just left it, but I had a meeting earlier with this guy from Chicago. And he heard about me through the grapevine. He goes, hey, maybe you can help this other organization with my nephew. Told me the situation, all that stuff. And then he puts me on the phone with this lady out of Dallas who's supposed to be advocating for his nephew. And she doesn't know shit.
You can't curse. You can't curse.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, y'all. So I started asking her questions about the case just so that I can, kind of get an idea of what's going on. And she knew absolutely nothing about this man's case. But this man is connected to like some big name people. And that's why she sought the guy out. But she knows nothing about his case. And when I started asking her, she got on the defense and got intimidated and goes, Demita, I'm not going to argue with you. And I was like, well, I didn't know I was arguing. I just asked you a question. I just asked you, what law are you talking about is being used? Like, what is the main focus of his case? Like, is there a law that needs to be changed? She was, the police were corrupt. That's what, duh, what else? We all know the police were corrupt, but what else? Exactly how were they corrupt? I said, because when you stand in front of audiences and advocate for him, you got to know what to say. You can't just get up there and say, Kim Kardashian and Meek Mills and John Legend is coming for him. You can't just do that. You have to, like I tell people all the time, you're holding up a sign saying free him, but does he really need to be free? Or how are you going to free him? Maybe a law needs to be changed. Maybe you need to go after the corruption in that courtroom.
Right.
There's so many things that you could say.
Instead of using an appeal to end up in the same situation.
Right. Make sure you fully understand what's going on with these people's cases before you advocate for them.
Right.
Make sure you fully understand the case as if it happened to you.
Right. So, Demita, it's 9:52. And let me just share this with you. So, to give you some numbers, this is my 3rd month. Demita and her team were on my first two shows. We were talking about Matthew Baker Jr., which I hope that he gets some justice soon, because there's no reason why that young man should be sitting incarcerated. And we'll come back to that one. Definitely. I said, so with everything that's going on, would you mind sharing with us about Freedom Fest? Oh, I was going to say our numbers are at about the platform does about 30,000 viewers. My numbers are at about about 550 to 700, depending on which week, which broadcast, which rebroadcast. So that's my numbers.
I'm so proud. You get it.
I'll get it, Demita. Demita said I'll get it, so I'm going to get it.
Yes, girl. And you know I love you. You're one of my favorite humans. I love you to death. Like you always, after knowing me, 5 minutes, you came through and helped me with my very first event. So
I couldn't be there though. I was campaigning.
But you're right. But every politician that came to speak that was running for office said, Chantaye told me to get my tail over there. I said, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you. So you did. I mean, it was like you came. You sent me mayoral candidates. You sent me council people, gubernatorial candidates. So, I mean, I'm saying this on air. You are the shit, girl. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Demita.
You're welcome.
It's easy to get lost in a world where people say you ain't S. So when people say you are the S,
right,
I accept it.
I am so sorry.
That's okay. It's 9:54. Tell us. Wait, Demita. Tell us about Freedom Fest. What is Freedom Fest? When is it happening? And what's the intention of Freedom Fest?
Okay, well, Freedom Fest is going to be July 2nd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's going to be at Grant Park in Atlanta. And we have a pavilion and we have a green space. So what we're doing is we're asking that if you have a loved one that's incarcerated and they have a wrongful conviction or an unfair sentence, or if you've ever been incarcerated, if you have an organization that assists people, that advocates anything against the criminal justice system, if you're a politician, if you just support us, we're asking that everybody meet us at Grant Park on that day. If you're advocating, you can wear a t-shirt, you can bring the signs, you can bring pamphlets. I have room for 13 more vendors at $75 a piece. And we're just asking you to come out. Food trucks, I did find out I can have food trucks. So probably 2 or 3 food trucks you can pull up and sell your stuff and help us, make the event great. But I decided to do it because I'm highly sought after and I'm one person and I have no funding. And my phone rings. So Chantaye, if we ever spend the day together, my phone never stops ringing. Like my voicemails, my emails, my text messages.
I do not miss those days.
TikTok, Clubhouse, they message me everywhere. It never stops. And I called Chantaye crying because I was overwhelmed. She had to bring me back.
You see, I'm like, I don't miss those days. Girl, I mean,
that something had to be done. It's time for us to come together and really tell this government what's going on. It's now. So that's what they on my day again. I'm sorry, but I asked. I decided to do it just so that we can come together and get as many numbers out there as we can. Just to show the government that this is only a small percentage of us. It's time for you to stop and we'll come together to really take a stand against all of this. I mean, it's an election year. We do not want to hear the typical, our criminal justice system needs to be reformed. We want to know how are you planning on reforming it.
And do not, hold on, I got to interrupt you. Do not tell me anything about mold on the walls when people are dying from police beating them to death and being starved to death and having broken bones and being locked in cells with 6 other people. And I don't want to hear nothing about y'all literally painting over walls. That's what one of the elected officials said. I wanted to throw something at him when I was running for office. They did not like me. I was like, what did you just say?
We want you to be more specific. We want you to tell us exactly what you're going to do to get your colleagues to vote for change. And honestly, and I know everybody's going to hate me after I say this, Please vote them old people out of office. I don't care what race they are. They are the
Please.
reasons nothing's changing because you keep voting that same person in for his 30th time. Let him go take a rest. Let her go rest. It's over with. Night night. Get out of here. Because we need to change this system, and we're not going to change it with the same people sitting in office every year.
Correct. And I hope
them judges and stuff too.
I was gonna say the same thing to Mita about those judges. I was at an event Sunday with the Working Families Party in Rep, Georgia. Kimberlyn Brown is amazing in person as she is on social media, as she is in the training. So I had to do a quick shout out, but I'll say this with the 2 minutes. What was there is they quoted a statistic that in Georgia there's over 1,500 judges, and 1,300 do not have melanated skin.
Right.
And the judges, Mr. Julius Hall, wanted me to do a show, and I'd love for you to come back and we can actually have a full conversation about judges and how they're appointed and how most of them never leave the bench unless they die, basically.
Right.
Even with the ethics violation, they're able to decide if they want to retire. And if they don't want to retire, and if they do want to retire, if it's an election year, they can make it so that there's no runoff if their name is on the ballot. You know, like it's just real tricky politics when it comes to these judges. But
Right.
majority of them are Caucasian males. Like over 1,200 of them in Georgia are Caucasian males.
Right.
So
Did I tell you about me getting kicked out of Cobb County Court, and I had never been in that courtroom in my life?
no, but it's 9:59. My show is about to end. Can I hit mute real quick? And can you tell me about? I'm gonna call you back. Let me call you back so that you can tell me about it. I'm gonna call you back tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for being my phone a friend. I felt like my show was getting boring. I had to bring it back to life.
Oh, thank you. Y'all have a good one, everyone.
All right, love you, man.
Love you too.
Thank y'all for watching Unjust. Thank you for allowing my friend Demita Bishop to drop in, for allowing Gregory G-Man over here to hang out with us, because this is what the future looks like. Thanks. Have a good night. Uh-oh, no one's queuing me up. I got to queue myself up. I don't know what happened to my engineer. He must have said, oh, she knows what she's doing. Not saying I do, but let's see.
Like this.